What inspired you to become?
So my name is Chintu Nangamba. I'm a journalist by profession. Other than that, I'm a child rights advocate and a coach. I train young journalists. We form clubs in schools, like we have a club at this school already. Okay, I'm glad to meet you. I see that you are also enthusiasts in this field. Wow. Coming to your question, who is a journalist? A journalist is a person who writes news, gather information about occurrences in the country, and they publish them through newspapers, radio, or TV. This time around, we have social media platforms. And what inspired me to become a journalist? Well, of course, I got the inspiration from the veteran journalists. I could see the Doris Mlengas of our day reading news, presenting stories, and I got inspired. But furthermore, what inspired me, I think, as my passion for journalism grew, was that I wanted to make a difference. A difference in that I really wanted to bring out issues that happen in our communities, especially the disadvantaged communities, like the rural communities. There are very few journalists that cover stories from rural areas. And that is where so many people go through different struggles. So my inspiration was that when I become a journalist, one, I really want to talk about the issues that affect children. I grew up as a child with so many difficulties, and I really wanted people to know more about what the struggles that people go through out there in different communities. That's the first thing. I wanted to create an impact as well. So that's what really inspired me to have an impact in the community. The way I have this impact now of bringing out issues of child rights. This time I'm able to do stories of people who are struggling and they need help. So when I do a story, for example, about this vulnerable family, and people see it, they are able to come through and assist the family. So this is like a dream come true because it's what I've always dreamed of doing.
When did you first become interested in media?
I hope I'll be able to vividly remember when I got interested. Of course, I've had the passion since childhood, but my first interaction with media work was 20 years ago. Okay, that was when I went to college to study journalism. Then the greatest impact or the interaction that I had was when I was doing my attachment during my college time at Radio Mazabuka. So I was given a shift every week. On Wednesday. I had a local language shift in Chitonga. I also had another shift in English. And honestly, I would say those were my greatest moments because each time my shift was on, I would do my best. In Chitonga, I even nicknamed myself as Gasimbiga Balai Hirerego. And people always looked forward to my shift because I really made it fun. I was very creative in the way I was presenting issues during that time. So that was my first, I would say, the first impactful interaction with media work.
Madam, my name is Kamal Richardson. I'm coming from Mongwala Day High School. Which qualifications are required to become a journalist? Is a degree necessary or can a diploma also work?
The first qualification is English because a journalist is a communicator in the first place. So if you are not able to communicate or articulate issues, it may be difficult for you to become a journalist because journalism involves interacting with people at different levels of communication. So first of all, at least you should have a good grade in English. I think mostly it's a merit. On top of that, um, another qualification, there are so many qualifications anyway. You need to have interest because I will tell you, journalism calls for passion. Without passion, you cannot thrive. So if you want to become a journalist, qualifications, yes, you need to have that English background, your academic, you need to have good results. Yeah, especially in the communication courses. And you should be equal to the task. the passion, the interest should be there in journalism. You also supposed to be an empathic person. You deal with people from different walks of life. So if you cannot handle an ordinary person there, even those people consider that they are low in society, you cannot thrive as a journalist. So I think those are some of the qualifications. Diploma is acceptable, degree even better. We have colleges like Evelyn Horn College that trains journalists. It gives a holistic kind of training, because you get a training in radio, I would say electronic media, which is radio and TV, and print media, which is magazine and newspapers, including public relations. So in these areas, as as a journalist, even a diploma can do. We have diploma holders. We have quite a number of your friends that were even here who are studying journalism who had a diploma. And even governments usually employs diploma holders. There's some of the skills that a journalist needs, okay, to have or develop. First of all, I will tell you, it's communication skills. So these communication skills, because you are a communicator, I hope you are paying attention. Okay. So you are a communicator. So as a communicator, you listen more. That's a skill. Because if you do not listen, how are you going to communicate the information to the people across there? Remember, as a journalist, you are a bridge between people who are being governed and those who are governing the people who are the leaders or the decision makers. So for you to effectively communicate, you need to develop communication skills. And part of communication skills involves listening. Because when you listen, you pay attention, you hear more, you get more, you get to understand even better. And those are the things that you're going to explain to the people on the other side. Because if you don't understand, how are you going to explain? How do you give what you do not have? So that's the first skill. The second skill is a technological skill. I think we all know that now we are living in a digital world. So without developing digital tools, it will be very difficult for you to thrive in this field. When I trained as a journalist initially, I was trained in media, but all I knew was to talk. Maybe I would speak on radio, but I didn't have the TV skills that I have now. Okay. Yes, I knew how to sit in front of the microphone and, say one or two things, blah, 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 blah. It ends. But over the years, because of the world, which is dynamic and things keep changing, and we've seen the introduction of technology. So we are slowly moving now from analog. Remember, we went digital, which required that all of us develop digital skills. So the digital skills I'm talking about are that even when you're doing radio, this time we have radio on internet, you should know how to operate. When you are doing TV, for example, initially I didn't know how to edit stories for people to watch them on TV. But this time I'm able even to handle a camera. I didn't have those skills, but I had to learn them because they demanded so, the situation demanded so. So camera skills, at least you should be able to stand on your own without a camera person. You have to know how to capture each moment. On top of that, you should know how to edit, whether it's a news story, it's a documentary. How do you put all those pieces together that make news? So those are the digital skills, technological skills, I would say, communication skills, emotional intelligence, I would say. How do you handle a situation? We are here. This is my first time coming here, but not everyone is the same. You have been given an assignment to handle a riot, for example, to cover a riot, there is war and everything. How are you? You also meet difficult people to interview, to talk to. Which skills do you develop for you to be able to interact and get along with everyone? So those are skills that you need as a journalist, because you are a communicator at the end of the day. So emotional intelligence means that you will not fight, you will not start exchanging bad words with a person who has refused to interview you and say, indani chabe ukoga muyongo. You will be patient, you remain calm, because you know what you want at the end of the day, and you understand because you have empathy. Maybe this person is just in a bad mood, but all you want is information from them. So those are the skills, I think: emotional intelligence, digital skills, communication.
Okay, madam, my name is Chiwa Melis. I'm from Kumara Days.
I want to ask you some few questions. Question number one, how did you get your first job as a journalist?
Okay.
Second, what is your difficult to find employment in the media industry? Third, what should someone improve in a journalism field?
I worked in the media. Maybe my first job in the media wasn't really media related, as in directly. After college, I got a job. My first job was learning at Taonga Market. There's someone, I think you've heard about learning at Taonga Market. That was a project under the Ministry of Education, but then the children were learning through the radio. I think Radio 2 used to play those lessons, even community radio stations in Southern Province. So when it came to Southern Province, I think that was my first job. I was employed, and these people employed me through a recommendation from Radio Mazabuka. Yes, that there was somebody who could handle this. And my role there was not even to prepare lessons on radio or anything. It was just to monitor children in the field. Okay. How the learning was taking place under a tree with a teacher using that interactive radio instruction. It was quite interactive. A teacher in the radio speaks, then the teacher here physically explains to the children and so on and so forth. So I wouldn't call it a full-time job. It was part-time, but it gave me experience. Then the second job again I got in the media was training young journalists. I got a media as a deputy editor for Children's Press Bureau. So the press bureau is like media for children back in Mazabuk. And my role there was to train children as young advocates, as journalists now, who could go on media and discuss issues that affect them. And that is what we did after the training. Would go in the field, the way I've come here, exactly what I'm doing now. I did it, I think, in 2006, somewhere there. You can count how many years ago. Some of you were not even born. So that was my second job. So that one directly was media related because it involved me transferring my skills. I had to transfer my skills onto this child who was able to articulate issues using the media and go on air. That time we had radio and they could write stories in the Post newspaper. That was not really, also it was just for a few, I wouldn't call it a full-time job. It was, but I think it was, I just worked for a few months and the project closed. Then this other job again in Choma, I worked at Sky. You see, I was gaining experience. Sky Radio, I was a full-time reporter now in Choma, covering stories every day, and I was an all-round reporter. All-round reporter, you don't have specific angle, issue, a bit. Sports, others who would want business, news, others. So there you cover everything. That's an all-round reporter. So I worked at Sky a little bit, but gained experience. And that is how I saw an advert in Zanis, somewhere there around 2012, or 2013, and I applied. So because of the CV attached and the experience that I had developed before, I was picked. And I was picked as to serve in Pemba as District Information Officer under Zanis, where I served for 12 years before going to Choma at the provincial office. So that is how I got my job as a journalist with the government. For me, my journey was different. For others, I wouldn't talk about other people's journey because in any field, you find some people just complete their professional training, immediately they find a job. Right? Others, it will take them years to find it. I personally had a unique journey as well. So I have already shared, partially I've shared what I went through, and that is not just what I did after school. There were these other gigs I could do. Today they call you here, there, as a facilitator, and all that. But it took me about 9 years to find a permanent job with the government. Okay, those we call them permanent because you are rarely fired and they don't just end abruptly the way it is in the private sector. Of course, not to say I wasn't working, but I think I told you I was doing part-time jobs. But then with others, you gain skills. So what is unique about this profession is that if you're not creative and if you're not an interactive person, it will be difficult for you to find a job because this is a practical course, just like doctor, is it the nursing program? Because if you just sit home, you will forget your skill. It requires you to do internship. Even during holidays, you need to be doing something. And the more you do it, the more you get better. And when you are good at something, potential employers will also see you. And this is how people have been getting employed. But if you just sit at home and feel, until I apply, those who apply, or where you apply rather, they also want some experience, I think, to see whether you are able to show them or exhibit those skills that you have gained along the way. Yeah, so it's a yes or no. It will be difficult if you're not creative and then you are not sharp or looking out there. Or it will be very easy. Others even get employed while they are still in school. That's what I would tell you. But for now, it's very easy because even on your own without a job, you can find your own job on media. You create your own TV, you create your own page, and you share you become a creator, right? You can be getting paid. And people will see you gain visibility there, and then maybe they will employ you or you become a consultant. Compared to our day, it was very hard. Not too hard, but yeah, we needed creativity to get there. Maybe the last question. Oh, the things I've mentioned are part of my CV. Part of the CV is the experience. What you have done during your training, you do those practicals. You do internship after school. That's part of you gaining skills. So those are the things that you put in the CV. And if there's anything, any other skill that you know, you could have learned it online. For me, I've learned digital marketing online, Facebook management and social media management, I would say. I didn't learn it at college, but I keep adding on the skills that I know that are going to sell me, looking at the age now. Yeah.
Okay, madam. My name is Chris Malala. I'm from Mawala Business. I have some questions for you. What are the biggest challenges you face? Do journalists work fixed hours or irregular hours?
In journalism, there's what we call specialized reporting. So this specialized reporting means that a journalist will choose an area of their interest to be reporting issues on. So for example, I have chosen, of course, I'm an all-rounder, but people know that I have a certain bias towards reporting on issues that maybe children use, I would say. So any new child-related news, usually even there, they would assign me to say, okay, this is yours. We have sports reporters. Their passion is just in sports. So for you to identify your area, you really have to know your passion, your interest. Where is your interest as a journalist? Is it in business issues? Is it in sports? Is it in children, gender, women affairs, and all that? Mine is, of course, gender and children. So now, let's take, for example, your interest is in sports. You need to develop a passion for sports. The passion that we are talking about here is know the terminologies. So even in college, there's a course, I already mentioned we have a course that we call specialized reporting. So this one, specialized reporting, they will expose you to different kinds of beats. We call them beats, the area that you are reporting on. So if you're a sports reporter, you have to know the terminologies, the language that sports reporters use, or terminologies that are generally used in sports. If you are a court reporter, you have to know the language and terminologies there. If they say an alibi in court, what does that mean? And so on and so forth. So as a sports reporter as well, the language I'm talking about is, for example, when it comes to soccer, who is the referee? People should understand it. So in your reporting, I know those people will even appear. The scores, you call them scores, I don't know, you should know what they are. So that when you report accurately. Okay? Yes, you report accurately. So as a sports reporter. So passion is more than interest. Interest, you are interested, but you may not even take part in it. But when you are passionate about it, for sure, it will be your bread and butter. And for you to become a very good reporter under sports as well, you have to get daily updates on sports. You have to know the teams that are leading in the league, worldwide, globally, locally. What is trending in the area of sports? Which teams which team is leading, which team, whether it's the money or whichever area and the different leagues that we are talking about. So that information should be at your fingertips. So that when you report accurately. Not only that, you are going to add creativity in your reporting. It will not just be plain. And people can tell that this reporter has no interest in this area from the way you report. But if you have an interest in the area, even the way you creatively craft your stories, the people, the producers, I mean the interviewees that you bring on board to interview, the questions that you're going to ask will show that this person really has interest in this area. So I think this is what I would say. It's a BEAT, a BEAT. So meaning BEAT means an area or a specialization in journalism. The challenges that we face as media. It depends on the media house, and it also depends generally as media. But being female in the media, we have those challenges that are specific to female journalists, right? For example, I wouldn't call this a challenge, but okay, maybe I will mention it when I talk about, do we work regular hours or do we have specific time? But anyway, as a media journalist, there are issues of harassment, sexual harassment, I would say. Okay? So if you're not grounded, you either give up, because sometimes those sexual harassment could be coming from the workplace or from sources. We call sources people that give us news. Yes, I'm a woman. Anyone can propose. But if I'm not strong, I'll be all over. And when we were growing up, even if we were passionate about this program, this profession, I remember each time I mentioned I wanted to do journalism, and people would say, because women get divorced. Journalists, A, B, C, D. There are so many tags that as journalists are given. But not every journalist is bad, or not everyone is good, not everyone is bad. It all depends on the circumstance and the situation. So that could be a challenge, which is actually everywhere, in every profession it's there. Another challenge could be ethical issues, I would call. Each profession has the ethics. So the ethics we talk about is the rules that guide that particular profession. For teachers, you have your own ethics, right? When dealing with pupils, your fellow teachers and all that, even the community, the parents. So journalists also have ethics. So we have the ethics to deal with when you are dealing with a child, how do you handle interviews, community, when taking pictures, do you get consent from people or not? Those issues, those are ethics. But then again, another challenge that comes is I'm a government worker, I'm a journalist. So meaning I'm employed to do public relations for the government. A quick one. So some of those challenges would include, if I want to cover a story that is against the government, how do I present it? Because remember, I'll be shooting myself shooting government in the arm. I work for, my employer is government. So those are ethical issues, Fine. Some of the challenges could be, maybe at your workplace, the way I was working in a rural district there, I didn't have a camera. The Zanis only had an office, I would tell you. But I had to use my initiative to find maybe a phone. I go and borrow a camera just to put my district on the map. So those could be a few challenges. Maybe there's no transport, we didn't have a vehicle. So that's why I'm saying they are specific to either a media house or an individual. Then coming to working, whether work regular hours or not, it depends. Of course, we have a working time period, the 8 to 17 hour work time that applies to everyone, right? But then with us, we even go beyond that. Sometimes, look, I'm here, this time I stay in Choma, meaning I'm going to sleep in Namwap because I still have work to do for the next 2-3 days. And I've left my kids at home. There'll be moments when the whole week I'm not around. And I wake up in the morning, 05, my kids are still sleeping. I'll come back almost midnight, they are still sleeping. The whole week I'll be coming and we're not seeing each other. Maybe the whole 2 weeks I'm not around, I'm away from home. So those are some of the things. Then there are some of the things that you go in the field, they affect you emotionally because you find people who are sick, who have different problems. You need to attend to them, not as a doctor, but emotionally we are human beings. It breaks your heart, right? Yeah, so those are things that you expect.